The health in India, Russia, and China varies because of how they live and because of their geography. There are many health issues and diseases facing India today. This is mainly because the waste in India has no place to go but in the streets and the rivers, since India has a very poor sewage system. This pollution from the waste rises into the air and contaminates food and water, which causes all the diseases. Only 30% of India's wastewater is being treated. The rest goes into the streets and the rivers. Since India doesn't have many public toilets, people just go in the streets, adding to all of the waste. The public toilets that India does have are filthy. 900,000 Indians die a year from pollution from drinking contaminated water, eating contaminated food, and breathing polluted air that gets into your system and causes all these diseases. Also, India's major cities add to the pollution problems from the smoke being put into the air. Diarrhea is a big problem in India, although it's not a life-threatening disease. People in India get this by eating contaminated food and drinking contaminated water. This is such a problem because of India's contaminated water, poor sewage systems, and improper handling of food. Once you get diarrhea, try to only eat salted crackers, bottled water, and soups. If it gets worse, consult a doctor for pills. A main disease in India is malaria and dengue fever. Both these diseases are transmitted through mosquitoes. These mosquitoes are most common around stagnant water, especially before and after India's monsoon season. Malaria mosquitoes bite at night, while dengue fever mosquitoes bite in the day. This can easily be prevented by using bed nets, but most Indians can't afford them. They also can't afford very good bug repellent. Since malaria is a disease, it can be treated by taking anti-malaria drugs. Dengue fever is a virus, so there isn't a vaccine for it. Hepatitis A and B are both very common in India. They are both a virus that affects the liver. You get hepatitis A by eating and drinking contaminated food and water. Hepatitis B spreads through the blood and the bodily fluids. To treat both of these, you need to get a needle and stick vaccination. Another disease transmitted by contaminated food and water in India is typhoid fever. Once you eat contaminated food or water, the bacteria enters your body, goes to your intestines, enters your bloodstream, and then spreads all over your body, leaving high fever, vomiting, rashes, and nosebleeds. You can treat typhoid fever with vaccinations and antibiotics. Malnutrition is a very big health concern in India among the children. Half of Indian children are underweight, and 5.6 million children die a year from malnutrition. So as you can see, if it wasn't for the food and water being contaminated by pollution, many of these diseases wouldn't be as serious as they are in India. Russia also has many health concerns since they have a very poor healthcare system. First, the most obvious health concern in Russia is cancer, particularly thyroid cancer from the radiation from the Chernobyl blast. The government didn't warn the people about the explosion, so they didn't bother to stay inside or to cover up their windows, and they were completely exposed to the radiation. Even today, some radiation is getting out from the cracks in the structure covering the site. More and more people are getting thyroid cancer, and people are afraid that their children are going to have birth defects from this radiation, which is just another health concern that's going to affect Russia. Since Russia is a much wooded country, there are many different ticks living there since ticks live in thick forests. One disease caused by ticks is tick-borne encephalitis. It's a viral infection of the central nervous system. These ticks feed on small rodents that carry the disease. Tick-borne encephalitis brings nausea, confusion, stiff muscles, and motor problems. If you find a tick on you and you have the symptoms, go to a hospital immediately for vaccinations. Lyme disease is a bacterial infection also caused by the bite of a tick. This tick is so small, which is why so many people get the disease, because they don't ever find the tick on them until it's too late. These ticks live on deer, rabbit, raccoons, and mice. They are most active during May, June, and July. Lyme disease can be life-threatening if not treated. To treat it, you must get a series of vaccinations often. Alcoholism is one of the top deaths in Russia because of the alcohol poisoning. In 1994, 53,000 people died of alcohol poisoning, and this rate has been rising ever since. The rate of alcohol consumption is the highest in the world in Russia. The average Russian drinks half a pint of alcohol a week. There are 2 million alcoholics in Russia. Men have more of a problem than women with this, which is why their life expectancy is 59 years, while a woman's life expectancy is 79 years. Another health concern in Russia is cardiovascular disease. It's a disease that affects the heart and the blood vessels. It's curable through diet and stress relief. Cardiovascular disease kills more people than cancer does, and it's responsible for 55% of the deaths in Russia. Lastly, tuberculosis is an infectious disease that is very common in Russia. 1 in 5 people have tuberculosis. It affects the lungs and spreads from person to person through the air. From 1998 to 2007, 283,000 people died of tuberculosis. All these cases of tuberculosis are because of pollution. Russia has the most polluted waters in the world, including the Aral Sea. The Aral Sea is more than 3 times smaller than it was in 1997. China's biggest health concern is pollution. Pollution leads to cancer, which is why cancer is the leading death in China. Every year, air pollution causes more than 500,000 premature deaths and 45 million asthma attacks. 16 of China's cities are of the 20 most polluted cities in the world. China also has very unclean waters from oil spills, pollution, waste dumping, and littering. 25% of China's population drinks unclean water. Near China's water basins, cancer, tumors, and miscarriages are on the rise. The pollution in unclean water is threatening the safety of food products such as fish, fruits, and vegetables when they are exposed to the air pollution. Hepatitis B is a disease that comes from all this pollution. 1/3 of people with hepatitis live in China. This spreads because of the contaminated food used by vendors. This can be treated by taking pills, getting vaccines, and eating Chinese herbs. Lastly, tuberculosis is a common disease in China because of the pollution. It is the #1 killer in China. It spreads from person to person through the air, and since China is so populated and overcrowded, it spreads very easily. It can be treated by taking medicine prescribed by a doctor. America does have cases of all the diseases of China, Russia, and India. We have a much better healthcare system now, and most Americans can afford the healthcare, unlike the people in the other countries. In India, they don't have a good sewage system, so waste just goes into the streets, which causes pollution, which causes hepatitis, tuberculosis, and typhoid fever. In America, we have a good sewage system and laws about pollution. We also put waste into waters and have oil spills just like other countries, just not as much. Also, in India, the people can't afford bed nets and mosquito repellent, but in America, we can. We also don't have a monsoon season, so we don't have to worry about malaria and dengue fever as much. The big cause for all the diseases in Russia is the polluted waters, which rises into the air. We have pollution laws in America that prevent people from dumping into the waters and littering the waters. We too have a lot of cases of cancer in America, but we don't have many thyroid cancer cases because we don't have radiation exposure here. Also, we have laws saying people under 21 can drink. In Russia, they don't have those laws, so teenagers get addicted early and get alcohol poisoning. The problem in China is the pollution, and like I said, in America we have laws preventing such bad pollution. But China has very large cities with very large industries, which is why air pollution is so bad. In America, we too have air pollution from large industries, but we don't have as many industries.